As I move around the country in my RV, I am faced with a huge problem and I am sick of it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. That is that it is very hard to put up an antenna for a long-term stay RV travel type person. If you're going camping for a weekend, that's great. They usually don't cut the grass on the weekends. But when I get there Sunday night and I wake up Monday morning and they're cutting the grass, running over my ground radials, that's a problem. When there are people who are really close to me and I can't run my ground radials east and west of the RV, that's a problem. I'm gonna do something about it today. Let me illustrate the problem by showing you what I'm working with here. I am in actually one of the nicest RV parks that I've been in the last 3 years of doing this. That is my neighbor. They are really awesome people, but there's their RV and their truck and my space. And the way that we work this out amongst ourselves in our own heads is my utilities. You can see the pedestal with the number 53 back there. My utilities are there, and you can see the drain hose there. I'm trying to think of a polite way of saying that, but that's the quote unquote property line. That's the fence. So from there to the antenna is 3, 6, 9 feet. And then let's back up and take a look at my side. So my RV and my truck, and you know, I might be able to get to the other side of the truck, but I got to drive over my ground radials every time. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. That puts me right to the edge of the truck. And kind of that same property line scenario going on there with the 52 pedestal back there. Sun's behind me. So I can put one ground radial that I need to drive over that way. And then that is my front yard that truck just drove through, which is also the street down there. So I can't put a radial this way. My only choice is to go under the RV, which is where that frame is going. And if you guys know anything about elevated radials, then you also know that pulls the bubble of RF towards the radial, which means it's pulling it towards the RV. So let's get up here and take a look at this. I've got metal siding here, and I've got metal cladding here. So essentially I've got a Faraday cage protecting me from the RF from my own antenna, and hopefully everything else is shooting over the roof. And my radiation pattern proves it out pretty well. So the antenna sits on the north side of the RV, and I'm getting good broadside coverage to the east and the west, and I am getting some coverage to the south, but you know, there is a great big amount of south towards me. So hopefully I'm going over the RV, first hop, and then coming back down. And you can see some propagation in South America as well with this antenna setup. I picked up one of these trucker mounts, and I picked up a U-bolt, and then my friend James clued me into this stuff, reminded me that it existed, because my friend Vern and I also did some stuff with this. This is called Unistrut, and it's made of aluminum, so it's super lightweight. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mount all of this on the front of the RV on the A-frame, which is why I needed really big bolts. I have a mast mount on the back. I have a receiver hitch, 2-inch receiver hitch on the back that I could use for raising up a regular mast, but I wanted something that I could leave up, and I'll be able to leave everything on this up to this 3/8 24 end, because it'll be bolted to the front of the RV with these guys here, and we're gonna see how well it works out. I want to use the frame rails as a counterpoise for the antenna, so I don't have to worry about picking up antennas and putting down antennas. And I know you're going to think about this, and you're going to think to yourself, you don't want to light up RF AC current on the frame of your trailer. Well, here's the deal. If you take the back of your radio and you take one of these little multimeters and you put it into continuity mode, the shield of the coax, the shield of the UHF connector, the SO239 on the back of the radio, is going to have continuity with the ground and with the black wire, the ground bolt on the back of the radio if you have one, and the ground wire on your power lead. You're already connected to it electrically. So this isn't going to be any different. So welcome to the front of my travel trailer. And this is what I am thinking. There are a couple of different places that I can put this. I can put it here, and I have tested this out, and it does actually work pretty well. This is aluminum, and this is also aluminum up here in the front, so it's closer to some metal, and everything affects everything. I can put it out here. That's gonna be a little bit farther away, which should do me a little bit better. So I'm gonna try it here, but I can always rearrange it a little bit later. So the emergency brake cable can get out of the way, and none of this will be in the way while I'm towing. This is all in storage mode, so I'm not compromising the safety of my towing. So that will go around there like so. And this Unistrut has perfect spacing. I love it. So we'll put a washer on there, and we'll put a washer on there. And there's no locking hardware, so if this does work, what I'll do is I'll switch these over to nylocks, which will stop them from backing out as I drive down the highway. I might not have a deep enough socket for this. So that's another thing I might have to do, is cut off the end of these U-bolts. There we go. And then these bolts here come all the way off so that you can flip it around and connect it connect it 90 degrees out of phase. So you can see how this part here is going horizontally. I'm going to switch it so it goes vertically. And I don't know that I need to do that because I'm not clamping. No, I don't need to do that. But okay, so for the record, you can do that thing, but I don't need to do it because I'm clamping onto a flat bar and not a round bar, not a round pipe. So if I was connecting to a round pipe, then it would go through there and it would grab onto the round pipe just fine. But because I'm connected to flat stock, it kind of doesn't matter. So I ran into a bit of a snag. This is a second piece of Unistrut. The other one's still up there on the front of the RV. But this is that mirror mount, and it is not as wide as I thought it was compared to the Unistrut. But I have a solution temporarily until I find a better one or until you guys help me come up with a better one. This is the backing plate for the U-bolt that's holding it over there, and I don't need the backing plate because I'm using the Unistrut as a backing plate. So I'm going to slide that in there and get it bolted in place so that lines up with one of the holes, and I'm going to clamp the mirror mount onto the top of that, and that just barely clears in the dipole configuration, and since the holes are uniform, it also barely clears in the regular configuration, the vertical configuration. So I'll put that together and I'll show you what it looks like. I want the coax part going down, and I want it down on the easy side. Let's turn this whole thing upside down. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Turn it sideways so that my bolts don't fall out. And then is it flat washer and then lock washer? I don't remember. And then I forgot the lock washer on this one. And then we can do this. And that bolt hole will line right up. Perfect. Even when you're on the road, you can't get out of having a junk drawer full of miscellaneous hardware. So I've found a nut and a bolt, and I'm gonna bolt this thing up here. All right, boys, moment of truth. Gotta get the continuity meter out. So from the coax shield to the bolts that are holding it to the channel, there's continuity. From the coax shield to the Unistrut, there's continuity. So we've got continuity all the way down on the Unistrut. Now from the Unistrut to the frame of the RV, there's probably not going to be very good ground. So we'll have to improvise something there. So at this point I have the world's shortest counterpoise, but we can fix it. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Get started and then we'll figure out together how to get better. I'm winding up my meter. So at this point I have a 5-foot counterpoise on my antenna, a self-tapping screw and a piece of wire, and we'll have the entire frame grounded to the antenna. What this will allow me to do is any 3/8/24 mounted antenna. Or of course I can always convert that over to something else. But we're gonna try this military whip here from our friends over at Chameleon because it looks cool. So this has a little bit of shock cord in it, and then you can see that little bit of brass lines up to create an electrical connection, and that lines up, and that lines up, and then you can slide these little bits of plastic up or not, I guess. Maybe that's just there to keep it looking pretty. We'll go with the pretty part. Perfect. And that looks like it's about 8 foot. And maybe for you short guys, get a step ladder or something. That's fun. Oh, we could use those bayonet connectors. That would be awesome. That looks good. Yeah, I don't think anybody would notice that. Looks good. Okay, so there's some instructions here for that military whip. Let's see what it says. Broadband collapsible monopole. If used by itself, the antenna will cover 26 27, through 54 with an external antenna tuner. When installed with the hybrid micro or mini, it becomes a broadband HF antenna covering 1.8 to 54 when used with an external antenna tuner. So you need a tuner regardless. Height 9 foot 4 inches. I was really close. I thought it was 8. Weight 12 ounces. Good for backpacking. Collapse length 17 inches. Mount 3/8 24. Yep. When collapsing the antenna, begin at the top section to extend the life of the internal braided cord. The design has been borrowed from similar antennas utilized by armies all over the world. The Mill Whip 2.0 is very sturdy and portable. The 7 brass sections are held together by spring braided. Excellent add-on for the hybrid or micro. All right, we'll have to give her a shot. And anything else. I mean, you can put ham sticks on this. You can put your 17-foot whip on this. Anything with a 3/8 24 thread. So even your fire sticks. So ordinarily you'd get a choke and put it at the feed point of the antenna to stop the braid on the coax from being your counterpoise for your antenna. In this case, right now, I only have about 5 foot of counterpoise, so I'm gonna put the choke on the other side, so that way I can stop it from running into the shack, but I'll still have my counterpoise working. Beautiful. So do I need to climb again, or can I do this from the ground? I think future revisions of this, I might have it down a little bit lower. Yeah, I can do this from the ground. One of the other things you can do with this is you can hook up your counterpoise and then run this like a Poder Performer by having ground radials that slope down out to the front. But right now, the front, as you guys can see, is the road. And you guys remember last year when I drilled this coax hole in the side of my RV. All set. To this day, the 6100 is still one of my favorite radios, and I get quite a lot of usage out of it, mostly because it's got the big waterfall screen and the built-in tuner. And this antenna needs a tuner. Other antennas I put up there won't need a tuner, but this is the one I felt like playing with today. And I actually don't mind using a tuner. So first, let's dial up the power and give it the beans, give it the full 10 watts. And then 27, pay no attention to that. That's narrow FM. Get down. 12? Oh, I was wrong. 12 is even better. The tuner would be lit up right there if I was tuning this, but I'm not tuning this. And you can see the SWR meter up here, this little orange bar, but we're also running the scanner. So I had to do a little bit of maths off camera, of course. 9.5 feet in meters is almost 3 meters. 3 meters, 3. That's a quarter wave on 12 meters. That's why it was so good on 12 meters. I should have just mathed first, but I like to experiment. I like to play. I like to have fun. Quit staring at my antenna. Well, like I said before, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, so you can figure out how to get better at it. And hopefully you guys can help me figure out how to get better at this. I don't work with Unistrut all that often. I've used it once or twice before with some help, and that's what I'm looking for now, is some help from you guys. So I don't think there'll be a problem with having the RV frame as a counterpoise, because like I said, all the grounds are connected anyway, so it's already there. I should have done some math first. 9.5 feet is 12 meters. Quarter wave, that makes sense. Here is the FT8 signal report. Who heard me? Look at that gray line. Who says gray line's a myth? We all know gray line's true. I'm getting into Japan from Arizona at 10 watts on a 9.5 foot whip. I'm happy. I've got no ground radials on the ground, so my counterpoise is the Unistrut itself, and then it terminates at the RV frame. Might couple again, you know how RF likes to couple with nearby metal. And then the coax that is underneath the RV where the lawnmowers aren't going to get it. And I realize that this is all gravel and pavement because this is Arizona, but I do stay in places that have grass from time to time. If you guys want some more information on the stuff that I used in the video, I will leave a link in the description down below. Maybe you can find some Unistrut stuff that works with the Unistrut that I got. Maybe you want to get the Unistrut that I got, or the U-bolts that I got. The U-bolts were kind of hard to find because usually they go down instead of sideways, and I had to do a lot of digging to get the ones that go sideways over the 6-inch beam on the front of the trailer there. And then of course the 9.5 foot whip is pretty slick, and we will be doing some backpacking with that. And I'm going to be testing out some other antennas, and coming up in a future video, I will be testing out Chameleon's remote antenna tuner, which I'll be able to tune at the base of the antenna, which will be really fantastic, and it's weatherproof and will sit outside all the time. So be sure you're subscribed to see that by clicking the subscribe button right below the video. And if you're not tired of me yet, there's another video right over here I think you'll enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. I'll see you over there.